I call this regular meeting of the Southwest Licking Board of Education to order. It is 7 p.m. at the Board of Education meeting room. I would like to recognize all of our visitors in the room and online. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jones, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Engel.
Here.
Mrs. Moore.
Here.
Mr. Vincent. Mr. Ziny.
Here.
Mrs. Spindler.
Here. We have one person for public participation, Mr. Ford.
Good evening. My name is Corey Ford. I live at 701 Osborne Drive, Pataskala, Ohio. And I'm going to be super brief. I just wanted to see if when we get down to item 9A, if you guys could speak to the community about a $62,000 contract for one HVAC technician to work 16 hours in the district. That equates to roughly $75 an hour. And would it be possible to save taxpayers' dollars by employing an HVAC technician for 16 hours a week? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second?
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes.
Mr. Vincent. I'm sorry. Mr. Ziny.
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes.
All right, gotta wake up too.
The adoption of the agenda is passed. And now we have a presentation for Miss Victoria Harvey. If you would please join me at the front of the room facing the audience. And my printer's broken, so I have to read from my phone. In May of 2023, in less than ideal weather circumstances, including heat, several lightning delays, and after 5+ hours, Watkins Memorial High School senior Victoria Harvey cleared 13 feet 3 inches to set her personal best WMHS school record, which she has broken time and time again, to go on to win the state champion title in OHSAA state track and field for pole vault. Victoria's journey in pole vault has been followed and cheered by many over the years. Personally, I know that when announcing at home track meets, I've missed a few calls from here and then from the press box, as I've been intently watching her attempt her next height for the win, and usually a new school record. Victoria represented our schools as a true warrior. We are so incredibly proud of you. Victoria's win is a win for Watkins, a win for the community, and all the future girls who have watched her success over the years. On behalf of the Southwest Licking School District and the Board of Education, we present you, Victoria, this state championship plaque to commemorate your accomplishment. Congratulations.
Hold on.
I'd like to invite her coach and Mr. Perkins up here for a picture, please.
Yep. And Melissa, can you take a picture? Do you mind? Of them? Yep.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Request to speak on agenda items, Teamsters, Local 413, and Southwest Licking Education Association. Approval of minutes from the June meeting.
Motion approval. Second?
And any conversation? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore.
Yes.
Mrs. Engel.
Yes.
Mr. Ziny.
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 5, financial report.
Motion to approve. Second?
Mr. Jones?
We have the executive summary for June 2023, which is our fiscal year end. Year to date, we ended up about $3.5 million better than we anticipated. So that's as of the October 5-year forecast. The May one included some of the revenue, but not all the expenditures. So revenue was approximately $2.5 million higher than we anticipated, and expenditures were about $1 million less than we anticipated. So it's really a great result. Money help carry over for the future as we continue to grow. Be glad to answer any specific questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Jim? You know, I know the state budget just passed, and
Yep.
that was, funding was set well, which,
Yes.
or what we wanted. There was a big school choice, which added the allowable vouchers.
Yes.
How much, do you have any anticipation of what that's gonna look like for us as far as?
Yeah, I don't.
Because that will pull from us, correct?
No, it don't anymore. It's
It's not
separate.
anymore.
No,
Okay, all
so
right,
basically
good,
it's paid
okay.
directly by the state now.
Perfect.
It does pull from us, from the state budget, per se,
Okay,
but it's
okay.
no
That's what I
longer,
wanted.
it's no longer included in our school foundation and
then
deduction.
pulled
That's done, so it just all comes from the state, so we get all the revenue we're supposed to get, per se,
Based on how many people?
based on the
or-
formula and our enrollment, yes.
Perfect. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Ziny,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Need a motion to adjourn into executive session
So moved.
for the purpose of employment of public
sorry.
employees. Sorry.
I'll second Roger.
I thought you were done. So moved.
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Ziny,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. We are adjourned at 7:07 PM. There will be I hate this thing. Okay. We are returning from executive session at 7:15 PM. Mr. Jones, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Engel,
Here?
Mrs. Moore,
Here.
Mr. Vincent, Mr. Ziny,
Here.
Mrs. Spindler.
Here. Item 7, personnel consent calendar. We have A through K.
Motion approval A through K. Second?
Anything to point out?
Hold on, my computer. Just the only thing I wanted to add was two things. One, we are fully staffed minus one teacher. So we're looking really good as far as starting school, and we will have that teacher hired in time. And then also we do have Shanna Clauda is with us tonight. She'll be joining the Aetna team. You can see a little wave. So I wanted to recognize her as well and thank her for being here. We're excited to have her. And that is it for the personnel.
Welcome. Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Ziny,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 8A, approval or ratification of licensed certified personnel.
Motion approval 8A.
I'll second that. Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Abstain?
Mr. Ziny.
Yes.
Item 9, business items A through H. Do we just want to open them up and talk about them?
We can do one vote and then talk about each one if you want.
Motion 9A through H. Second?
You want to start, Rick?
Yeah, so obviously the first one's the Four Seasons. Is the same contract we had last year with bringing in a HVAC gentleman twice a week to help us out. This has been very helpful to our maintenance crew since we only have one maintenance person, an assistant, and a director or supervisor. This is not paid from the general fund. This is paid from our 034 maintenance fund, which is used for maintenance of the buildings. This is what it's there for. We set aside $310,000 a year for 23 years. So that contract's being paid out of that fund, not the general fund. So the original money comes from the PI levy. So,
Okay.
you want to do B?
Sure. So the resolution of practicalities for transportation. as we do that every time this year. You want to do C?
C is basically, as part of finally getting the permit for the new K3, we're required to put a turn lane in off Watkins Road onto our Watkins Memorial, middle school, elementary campus. So what this MOU does is gives us till the end of the project to put the turn lane in, not that we have to do it right this minute, because it hasn't been fully designed yet, and we haven't bid it out yet. And we didn't want it to hold us up, because we found out late in the process that we need to do this turn lane. So this MOU just says, by this date, Garmel will return in the drawings, review, and we'll have the turn lane in place when the new K3 opens up. And if we don't, we can't open up the K3, so.
No.
So that's what this one is. Similar to what we did on Smoke Road. It's very similar to that, so. Next one.
Overnight trip for cross country. This is before school actually starts. So it's a camp for them. So it doesn't impact anything with school, but they're using the transportation.
E is our lack of service agreement we do every year. They're our A sites, so we provide our accounting, payroll software, student information, backup services, et cetera, so use our contract for them. F is our fleet liability and property insurance, renewing with EMC, who we've been with for 3 years. The cost has actually went up a little bit, so I felt some of the values were a little bit low when we talked about it, so it went up by about $4,000. Not a ton more, it's a little bit more. So basically did a second quote from Indiana Insurance, and it was higher. So really there aren't very many companies insuring schools, which I don't know why. It doesn't seem like an overly risky proposition, but so those are only two we got quotes from, and so we're renewing, we are asking to stay with EMC.
And then the policies are records retention, district records, and student absenteeism, and there's really not anything substantial in them. I know the policy committee reviewed them, but. And then lastly is our REACH contract. This is a substantial cost to the district. Unfortunately, I think you're going to see more and more of this as area schools that we contract with are having trouble finding staffing. Currently, the ESC is closing down one of their programs and moving another program to combine. So our student services team is currently looking for placements for our students that were to attend there. So I think with the teacher shortage significantly with intervention specialists, this is going to continue to be an ongoing issue. And I think that's going to bump the cost up of programs that we have to send our kids to. And that's it.
So so these are these additional seats that would have normally been part of our ESC contract?
No, this has nothing to do with what I just spoke.
Okay.
We just found that out last week.
Okay.
So Ms. Hadelman and Mr. Davis and Ms. Taggart are working on figuring out where those kids are going to go.
Gotcha.
Nope,
Okay.
that was just news last week on the staffing. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it
It
is.
is. There will be some reimbursement for this through the catastrophic cost reimbursement. Not a lot, but there will be some to help offset that cost.
Any other questions? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 10, A through C, treasurer's items.
Motion to approve 10A through C.
Second.
Mr. Jones?
First ones are usual transfers we have to do. Want to close out the fiscal year and also before the current year, since some of our debt issuance are paid with PI TANs or PI COPS. So transfer the money from a permanent improvement fund to our debt service fund to make the payments for principal. Plus, there was $500,000 for PI contingency to help with the construction project, so forth. So that's our usual transfers, debt payments, and to close out fiscal year. Change fund, unfortunately, this is something that we have to go back to with the change of the budget, which require us to take cash now at ball games.
Right.
And so, you want to talk about that? I know you're so passionate about it. Or you prefer to just be quiet?
No, it is a resolution, yeah, it was showing a bill that we'll have to take cash at games, technically starting in October, but likely before then. We are meeting with the other LCO, ADs, and administrators 1st of August to try to align and be consistent, so we'll do that.
So obviously we'd have cash on hand. Typically in the past we did 3,000, but now hopefully there's still going to be a lot of people buying electronic tickets. It's still the ideal, still the push, but have the ability they need to pay cash to get a ticket to get in. And then the announce certificates, kind of timing of year, get invoices late June. We've closed out, so it's just all timing issues, trying to get everything cleaned up or get a couple late invoices in. I ask the board to approve all those.
Any questions? Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Ziny,
Yes.
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes. Item 11, superintendent items.
So the good news, we finally broke ground on the new elementary. So we had some hiccups within the county getting everything approved and all our permits, but that was finalized on Monday, and so that has begun. Due to the addition of the 8 extra classrooms, the building will not be done until February. So we'll be talking in coming months of plan for moving. Right now, I anticipate, knowing that they say February, it could be a little late, that we'll actually move in the fall to start the new school year because we'll have to redistrict as well. So we'll begin working on that this year, the redistricting process, and be prepared, and then we'll see how the building comes along. But it is exciting that we're finally
Fall
starting.
of 24, 25, or 25, 26?
25, 26. Let's see. Also, Rick and I recently met with Garmin and Miller to discuss the district master plan. We are going to be putting together a task force made up of teachers and staff members, community members, to start talking about what's coming next in the district with our growth, how soon we're going to need an additional building, as well as an expansion on the high school and anything else that comes from that conversation. So we'll be seeking people to join that, starting that in the end of September, so we can kind of start preparing for what's coming with all of our growth that we see and all the new developments coming in the district.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yep, go for it.
You know, obviously we're growing, we're going to need more buildings. You know, Gar Miller told us, you know, it's 3 years from the time you start design to the building's built. So
Yep,
we got to plan well ahead, you know, to be on the ballot, because usually it takes a couple times to get the levy passed. Then it's 3 years from there. So that's definitely part of the discussion will be when to go on the ballot once we know what building we're going to build.
The positive or the good news is that unfortunately with the OFCC project, your hands are tied with the state, and they look at 5 years of growth data and trends when determining how large our buildings can be built. This time we won't be working with the OFCC, so although it will be self-funded, we'll be able to utilize all of our data, which we've shown at the last board meeting. I showed the connection between what Cooperative Strategies is producing and how close it is to our actual student data and growth. So we'll be able to use that whole trajectory when planning for buildings and growth in the future. So that's going to be really helpful. Anything else on that, Rick, that you can think
No,
of?
it was excellent.
So that's coming, so look for that. And then also I wanted to bring up, I talked to Mr. Vincent prior to the board meeting, and he wanted to discuss tonight if we're sold on naming the new elementary Watkins, and his reasoning, and then I'm going to add something on my own as well. He said there seems like there's kind of a rite of passage when all of the elementary kids come together in the intermediate, the 4-5. You know, that's when they kind of, you know, becomes Watkins. And he said, I didn't know if everyone felt like we should name that Watkins Elementary. I was also thinking with the upcoming task force and trying to potentially reconfigure the district and what that looks like, where kids are going to go. You know, do we want to hold off on utilizing that name right now and come up with something different? I don't have a personal suggestion for something different. He did mention 2 names, Warrior Elementary and Pataskala Community School. So that was something he threw out. He said he didn't know what people would feel. I don't think he's tied to those names necessarily, but I don't think the idea of what he's saying is bad necessarily. Yeah. And as I think about what's to come, and maybe we want to look at picking a different name somehow for that building. So I kind of share in his sentiments of what he brought to me. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I don't have an idea either off the top of my head.
I agree. I don't know what the name would be, but I agree.
I do too.
I do 3.
100%.
Roger? What
You
do you think?
agree with changing the name to something?
Yes.
Yeah,
Of not using Watkins Elementary. I
Yeah.
would prefer to not use Watkins.
I like
Elementary.
the rite of passage, like
I do too.
Yeah.
behind what he was saying, for sure.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
that's
I
something we're
agree.
going to need to
You agree?
probably decide fairly quick. It's already been designed with walk-ins, and we don't want to go ahead and put it up on the wall and
Yeah,
then
we don't.
take it down
No,
again.
no, no, we don't want that.
I think we
So-
have a little bit of time, but we don't want to delay
Yeah,
it too
do it,
long.
yes.
So we're going to have to start. I don't, I guess I wanted to see how this conversation went, and then maybe I can talk to the district team and see if they have any ideas of how we can get some ideas of what to name it, or I'm sure somebody might have a good idea out there.
I would like for it to have, since we're pulling from Pataskala Elementary, that it would have some sort of,
Connection.
yeah,
Like,
you know, I mean.
don't disagree.
Like Bright Waters Elementary or something, you know, I think that's what Pataskala's supposed to be supposedly, you know, or something, I think that's a little shaky on that, but you know what I'm saying? Something maybe to try to pull from
Yeah.
kind of at least the reflection of the history of that, perhaps.
Okay. Maybe I'll put something out to staff and see if anyone has a good
Any
idea.
ideas?
Because someone probably will come up with something creative, but.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll move on that pretty quickly then, so we can get that changed, and so Rick is right, so they don't put it up anywhere, but we have a little bit of time.
The newspaper.
Oh, my newspaper in the high school.
Yeah.
It was
Wapakoneta?
No, that's a town. It's I can't.
Was it what?
Watkaetki.
Oh,
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
It was all. It was the three letters. It was the three letters
Right.
of all the schools. It was WAETPAKI Scribe. That was our newspaper in high school.
Oh.
Just so, to date myself. That was our newspaper.
Okay,
We
we'll
had
take,
newspaper
we'll
when I was
take that
here,
under
so-
advisement.
It's been 2005, we got rid of it.
I could see a little 5-year-old going, I could have.
Yeah. No. It was. Yeah. It had the.
wait, probably not the choice.
It had the letters all in it. So,
Okay, we'll kick that around and see
Yeah,
what
no,
else
no,
we can come up with. Okay, we'll put that in
I'm not saying
the
that.
hat,
I'm like,
the
that's
idea
hard
hat.
to say, so.
And then the only other thing I wanted to just share, remind everybody, August 14th is convocation. Information will come out about that August 1st. Obviously, we would like all the board to come if you're free and not tied up with work. And then the 16th starts the street fair, so we'll have a school district booth there as well. So as always, you're welcome. And I think that's it for me tonight.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 12, request to speak on non-agenda items, Teamsters and Southwest Licking Education Association.
Tan's really excited I'm going to speak. Yes. I just want to say, you know, we're wrapping up summer, and no matter how much we try, we're going to shift to school starting. And we just really appreciate this summer. I personally appreciate Dr. Perkins has been really good at letting me know what's going on. We've been working on committees, figuring out our LPDC, which is our licensing committee. So we are just really looking forward to a great year and having the students back in a few weeks. So thank you.
We're waiting to give him to you.
I think I said that out loud the other day.
That was a parent talking there.
That was outside. That wasn't in my head.
And Christine Reed, Southwest Licking Youth Football Association, and logo. First and last name, address, and you'll have 5 minutes, and Mr. Jones will let you know when time's up.
Okay, hi, my name is Christine Reed. Address is 78 Northview Drive Southwest, Etna, Ohio 43068. I'm here tonight to talk about the logo issue. I am a 4-Force Blood Quantum enrolled member of the federally recognized Oneida Tribe of Indians. My son, who is both a student at Southwest Licking and an athlete at Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer, is also an enrolled member of the federally recognized Oneida Tribe of Indians. I'm here tonight to publicly speak on the logo issue that is currently causing turmoil between Southwest Licking School District and Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer Association, doing business as Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer. Although I can respect your request in regards to Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer's current logo, I cannot agree with it. Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer designed this logo with the youth programming, community, history, future, and warrior name in mind. I would like to make you aware that our current logo we call a chief. There is no face on the logo to distinguish race, ethnicity, or even age. We implemented a skull instead of a stereotypical native face to avoid the widely used large caricature nose that others depict as Native, and to represent that we are all the same warriors under our skin. The headdress itself is not offensive. It is a high honor in Native American traditions to possess one. To have this as a part of our logo means that we are holding our athletes to a high standard and expect them to hold themselves to the standard as well. Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer, in essence, is training the future Southwest Licking Warriors, so why not support them with the youth programming needs regardless of their logo? Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer is not funded by the school, nor do they receive monetary donations from the district. Southwest Licking does not cover operational costs, equipment expenses, nor do they offer up their home field to the youth. What Southwest Licking does offer up is a few practice fields that do not cover the current need, hence Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer also needs to seek space for practices elsewhere within the community. This is the same gesture that Southwest Licking School District would offer to any organization that met requirements. Did you also know that out of the 11 participating leagues in the LCL, Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer is one of a kind, and that they provide their own home field maintenance, concessions, volunteers, are self-funded, and are the only league not hosting in their local high school stadium? That privilege is not granted to them, but Southwest Licking wants to suggest further repercussions if Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer does not discontinue use of their logo because they find it offensive. When we asked how our logo was offensive, we were told that when the school worked with a local family to change their Chief Wahoo looking logo, and tensions were high over official NFL and MLB logos, that it was determined that Southwest Licking School District would not affiliate with any entity or allow any logos that they deemed a caricature, cartoonish, or animated in nature, the use of school properties. Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer's current logo does not fit any of these categories. Upon searching for documentation, including supportive verbiage, written policies, or even a written statement, my efforts were fruitless. Other schools throughout the nation have been given permission to keep their logo and or name by asking their local Native American tribe for permission. Unfortunately, here in Ohio, there are no federally recognized tribes to ask for permission, as you may already know. Since this aspect is off the table, what other options is there for Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer to get permission? And since when does the school district get to deem a logo of a separate business entity offensive? Both Southwest Licking Youth Football and Cheer and Southwest Licking Schools logos are a representation of a warrior wearing a headdress. As a Native American parent, I would like to take this time to educate you on what is culturally appropriate, or AKA deemed cultural appropriation. We all have to take into account that because the American Indian Alaska Native population is so small in the state of Ohio, 0.2% to be exact, offensive behaviors can arise without proper education to our students and parents because of lack of exposure. The headdress itself is not offensive to Native Americans. It is the stereotypical Hollywood behaviors that are offensive. I, as a Native American with children in the school
30
district,
seconds.
appreciate that you are taking this to full consideration with the heritage in mind. I have not been a witness to any mascot or persons in costumes, have not witnessed tomahawk chopping at events, nor seen anyone wearing fox feather headdresses, and definitely no cultural inappropriate verbal gestures that we as Native Americans would be disrespected by. In my personal opinion, as a Native American parent,
Time's up.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Closing item, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Mr. Jones?
Mrs. Moore,
Yes.
Mrs. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Zani,
Yes.
Mrs. Spindler.
Yes, we are adjourned at 7:36 p.m.